To our discussion on raising boys this morning. We are so honored to have Mr. Michael Ohene-Effah with us this morning. Elder Amos is also, he'll be joining us via phone and joining the conversation. Want to say good morning to Yvonne. Yvonne has been expecting us to start and we are late. We apologize for the late start, but we are good to go. So you can call in a friend and be a part of this. We are live on Facebook, all right? So join in. You can send a question, you can send in a comment, and please share to be a blessing to someone. And you can also reach us via WhatsApp if you have a question or if you have some other comment. You can even send in a voice note. In fact, we are hoping you have time to call in as well if you have some questions for our guests. And so we're just about to get on this morning. This morning we're going to be talking about how boys are different, how boys are unique. I mean, this is a great learning opportunity for us, very educative time, so I'm looking forward to it. Also, some of the issues pertaining to boys' development and the stages of boyhood, if there's anything like that, and what we need to know. Today, I think we're capturing what we are doing as what parents need to know about raising boys.
That's right.
So we have Mr. Michael Ohene-Effah with us. Douglas is also here with me. Elder Amos is also on the line joining in the conversation. Mr. Ohene-Effah, good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you so much for being a part of this. You know, when we called you, we were like, hey, this man is so busy. Will he make time? And you did make the time. We're so grateful.
It's a pleasure to be back here. I think I was here in January.
Yes, I remember starting the year, right?
Transformation.
Yay.
I like the growth. I like the development that I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. It's been a good year.
Amen.
So it's good to be back.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. And we want to know more about Lead-A-Freak. I mean, we've been telling people the co-founder of Lead-A-Freak International is joining us on Sunny FM. And I'm sure some have been asking, who is Michael Ohene-Effah and what is Lead-A-Freak International? What are you all about?
Very intelligent question. Okay, so we founded Lead-A-Freak International 8 years ago with a passion to deliberately grow leaders for Africa. I was concerned, I used to work in development.
Okay.
And every time we're asked to analyze a development initiative, every time we're asked to design a development intervention for Ghana and Africa, always the question came back to, will people manage the funds well?
That was the question.
That was the question. And the more I thought about it, after 7 years of doing that, I said, okay, if people are the issues confronting development in Africa, then why are we not doing something about people? And I think the Lord laid on my heart to do that full time. By the way, I'd been teaching and talking in schools since 1995.
I figure.
I don't think there's a tertiary institution in Ghana that I haven't worked in.
Really?
And I used to do that part-time. So I would do it on weekends when I have leave. And then I reversed it. So instead of doing that part-time, I decided that should be full-time.
Okay.
So what we do at Lead-A-Freak is that we've created a curriculum for training children to be leaders.
Training children to be leaders.
Yes.
Okay.
We call it Leadership Farm. Wow. And the principle is that just as you plant cocoa and take care of it, prune it, take weeds out, deliberately growing so you can pluck cocoa at the end of the day, we should also do the same with our human beings.
Wow.
And our program goes to schools and takes the children through a 3-year program that helps them to discover who they are, have a plan for their lives, and then become the adults that we want to be. For us at Lead-A-Freak, we think we have it all wrong. Adults are not investing in children, including even the church. Wow. And so it's like a farmer who has just thrown seeds on the ground and expect that good produce will come at the end of the day. We don't focus on children development as a country. We just, think giving them food and watching as they go and come every day will get us the adults that we are looking for. We think we should be more deliberate with the way children are being brought up, and that's what we do. So we support schools, we support churches to be able to do children's development in a more holistic, structured, and strategic manner. That's what we do. And we do our programs through a number of interventions.
Okay.
We run leadership summer camps. We run school-based programs. We run business idea generation competitions for children.
Okay.
We run so many other stuff.
So it's been how many years of doing this?
8 years March.
8
March
years.
next year, yes. So 7 years in March next year.
Okay.
And we are absolutely enjoying it.
So one day you're going to look back, I tell you, and I promise you, you will look back.
This is the I'm Drive on Sunny 88.7 FM. And I want to go straight into what we are discussing this morning. I know that we have some great parents who've joined us today. We want to know, how are boys different? How are boys unique? Let's talk about that this morning.
Okay, so there are three main differences that we need to look at if we are looking at the issues of boys and girls.
Okay.
Anatomically, physiologically, and psychologically, there are differences between boys and girls. But from where I sit and what I've seen, the differences blur as people grow, and that the differences that we see are mostly cultural. So anatomy, we all know that boys are different from girls, or males are different from females, and then that gives us our assigned roles as we go along. So boys are supposed to grow up to be men who are the hunters, the gatherers, and the providers for the family, whereas girls who grow up to be women who are supposed to be taking care of the family. They are the ones who bear the children, and they are the ones who are supposed to raise the children, and then that is really by the gender that is assigned roles. Now, if you take away the anatomy and you look at the physiological and the psychological development, there are differences between boys and girls. Boys are naturally active, they like action, they like to take charge.
So there's nothing abnormal about them jumping all over.
No. It's part of, it's in the DNA.
Okay.
It is part of the makeup. It's part of God's creation. And then girls are more reflective and more emotionally matured. Now, one of the things people don't know is that girls use more of the two sides of their brains that boys do.
Okay. Say that again.
Girls use more of the two sides of their brains. Our brains are divided into two.
Okay.
There's the emotional side and the rational side.
Mm-hmm.
And girls do better at using both than boys do. Boys use more of the rational side, and they will do that till they grow to be adults. Whereas girls are able to combine the two because they would have empathy, and at certain times when they must also step up to the plate and lead, they will do so, even if they are leading from the back. So these are the main differences. And then physiologically, as boys grow and mature, they would have unique development needs and challenges. But generally, the development needs or what we need to do for our children are just about the same.
Okay.
There's not much difference in terms of what we need to do to be able to grow, cultivate, and develop young people into responsible adults that will lead the development of any country, nation, society, or organization.
Okay. And we have Elder Amos online. Elder Amos, good morning. Hello, Elder Amos, can you hear us? Hello, Elder Amos?
Hi, Jenny, I can hear you.
Awesome. Elder Amos, how are you doing?
I'm well. Grace has kept me.
Awesome.
Sorry I couldn't join you in the studio.
That's okay. We're glad we can hear your voice on the phone and we can still interact with you. So that's okay.
Right.
But what do you have to add to what Mr. Ohene-Effah said about how boys are different, how boys are unique? If you have another take on that.
Thank you very much. And regards to Mickey in the studio.
Massa, I salute.
I have followed keenly what you were saying. It's important to also realize that boys are boys because of the way they are designed. Now, a lot of the time, you would notice that in terms of the scientific research which is available, you notice that as boys grow into men, you will notice that if you contrast them with women, the data shows that the bone density of males are different from that of females.
Okay.
The girls will get to a place where they will hit menarche, but the boy never would experience any such thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the onset of puberty then raises some new areas of growth, experience, and expectation.
Okay.
So you notice that the boys, while growing in their muscles. They're going to be very thick, very strong, agile in the way they have the outlook, whereas the girls tend to be, unless of course there are some stimulants that have been introduced or some inhibitors that have been introduced into their body, you will notice that they come out as very fine, refined beings. You know, if you look at them in their outlook, you would see that there's a marked distinction, and when they stand out, those things are clearly marked.
Okay.
Of course, in terms of cognitive processes, you will notice that a lot leans on activity, whereas for the girls, it's more of connection.
Okay.
Now, whilst one is connecting, the other is just revolving around doing stuff. And they'll grow with these marked distinctions. But like Mickey alluded to, there are a lot of other similarities that also exist. And sometimes also the way we raise them, we tend to deepen the yawning gap that already exists in terms of differentiation between the two.
Okay. And I think we're going to go back to Mr. Michael Ohene-Effah. I think I get some Venn diagram crossings between what you're saying and what Elder Amos is also sharing with us. I just want to get on Facebook and say hello to those of you who have joined us. Wilma Asumani says, so glad to be listening in. Moses Duca says, please, good morning, listening from Ashaman. Good morning to you all. We are live on Facebook. You can join the conversation. You can send in a question if you do have one. You can send in your comment. I think one of the things we want to ask is, what are some of the most important issues in a boy's development? Most important things that parents cannot afford to miss in the development of their boys. Let's take it from birth to manhood. Mr. Michael Ohene-Effah.
Awesome. Very good question. One, parents need to know that you call that fetus, right? When kids are in the womb, they start hearing you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And so what parents need to do should start from there.
Okay.
The energy and
so the parents who are calling their children pension baby, the child can hear you calling them pension baby. Lord have mercy.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Actually, good chefs will tell you that the taste and the elasticity of beef is determined by the mood of the cow before it was killed.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So every good chef will make sure that the cow is happy before they kill it.
How do you get a cow to smile before you kill it?
It's the first time I'm hearing this.
Yes. So if cows can respond to such stimuli, then you can imagine what human beings we are doing to our children. So right from the fetus. Now, one of the things I used to read to my son when he was in the womb. I'll read the Bible to him, I'll read stories to him, and I'll be talking to him. So I started doing, hey, buddy, while he was in the womb. And we need to, yes, a child can hear you, they can feel you. So what parents need to start from there. Okay. Now, if you've missed it, now the baby has come.
Yeah, mine has come.
Yes.
You've crossed the bridge.
If you are a parent and you are listening, don't joke with that process. The music you play at home, the energy and atmosphere at home, how you relate as a couple, how you talk to the other siblings, all impacts a child.
In the womb.
In the womb.
Interesting.
And when they come. Now, my two kids were delivered in a private hospital, and all of them were delivered to the sound of music.
Oh.
Yes, I requested that. So they came out, the first sound they hear was jazz music. Not Obra, anywhere.
You don't want any morose child.
No. So we need to be, and that's one of the things I want to get out of this conversation.
Okay.
We need to be deliberate with the development of our children. We can't leave it to chance. We can't just be and expect that we will get good children. That's why I said that is akin to a farmer who just throws a seed out in the field and expects that it will grow and you go and harvest later on. So if a farmer won't do that with tomatoes, then why are we human beings doing that? Thinking that by providing rice and stew at home, that's it, we are growing children. Yeah. You know, that's what we say. So that's what, and then any child from 18 months, every child develops well. So at 18 months, your child now knows what they are doing. Before that, they don't. But at 18 months, your child knows and develops. Their will is now shaped. So at
But
that point,
I gave my son too much space.
yes.
Assuming he didn't know some things he was doing. 18 months.
Yes, 18 months. So at that point, that is when the boundaries need to be put in place.
Okay.
Because at that time, they will test you. And they will do more of the behavior you reward and less of the behavior that you don't reward. Now, I say this, a parent's number one job is to set the boundaries of acceptable conduct at home. And so as a parent, your number one job is, what boundaries am I setting for the development of my children? And that includes everything you do at home, your relationships, the way you talk, the way you relate with people. Everything that is happening is a boundary, and the child knows. So they will do the behavior that you reward, and then they will stop the ones that you don't.
Okay.
And so at that point, if I said this in a school, and one teacher came and challenged me and said, what do you mean? And then after a few months, we met again at another fire and said, what you said was true. Because I didn't know, but my child had started singing Lotto songs.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
And he said, I didn't know that they actually were having an impact on her. She was soaking it in. And if you pay attention to children, some music that you used to play around them when they were 1 year, at 7 they can sing it. Because it was etched in their memories of their brains or their minds. And so we need to be deliberate. The will of a child is developed at 18. And so at that point, if they cry and whine for things and you give it, they'll continue to do the same thing. If they try to embarrass you at public functions so you will cave in into their demands, they'll do more when they are teens. So at that point, you need to set the boundaries of acceptable conduct. Should they cry for things?
Or Steph, we should have had this conversation a few years ago.
And I'm happy to have it now.
But better late than never.
Yes. and because it's will, they will do it. So you go to church, and then they want something, you say no, and they take their shoes and sit on the floor and throw tantrums. And they know when, they know when they do it, it will elicit a certain response from you. So they keep doing it. So let's pay attention. Now, behavior scientists say that there are 3 major development stages in the life of every young person, up until their early teens. And once again, I want parents to pay attention to that, because it's got to do with everything that will happen to us when we are adults. Now, the ages from 0 to 7, they call it imitation stage. 0 to 7 years. It is the most important phase in the development of our boys and girls, especially the ages 3 to 5. It's imprint because at that stage, whatever happens to them becomes like the wires that will wire them for the rest of their life. That's why it's imprint.
3 to 5.
0 to 7.
0 to 7.
But
okay.
of that, the most important is 3 to 5.
3 to 5. Okay.
Now, in Japan, they don't teach their children thematic things before 7. They teach them values, moral conduct, how to be a good human being before 7. Because they know that is what is going to form the rest of their lives. That is why Japanese are some of the most disciplined people on earth.
So it's a huge mistake to say, Jano, when you know Beja.
No.
Automatically.
No.
Hi.
Yes, it is. I like that. Huge mistake. It's not only a mistake, it's huge.
Yes, it's a big one.
Yes.
It's a big
so
one.
imitation. It's formed. Now, pay attention to concrete. And I see you are doing renovations here.
Yes.
When the masons cast concrete, what happens? When it is soft, they can turn it around into any shape.
Yeah.
When it casts and is hardened, what do?
Nothing.
That is why Amos said in the promo to this show that it is easier to build boys than to mend men.
Yeah.
Because when the concrete is cast, you now have to take chisel before you can chip away the unwanted parts of the concrete. And so imitation, at that stage of a child's life, what they hear, what they see, how mommy and daddy talk to each other, the music you play at home, the TV shows you watch, what the other people in their lives do. Sometimes the parents get it, but maybe you are living with your mom, grandma, grandpa,
auntie,
uncles, aunties, others are living, cousins, older cousins are living in the house. So you are trying your best, but those people, it's like when you build, then they come and
Then they collapse the building
it
for
back.
you.
Exactly. So when you are not at home, what kind of things is your maid servant or your man servant, whoever is at home, allowing your children to watch? Because it's imprint. It's etched.
I was speaking to one woman of God, and she was saying, I mean, she would leave her children with a house help. I mean, of course, she was busy; she has stuff to do, and along the way, we all have to do that. Some have to do that along the way. And if she found out quite later that unfortunately the house help was watching porn. She wasn't watching it alone, but was actually watching it with her children, and it was a really tough one, for her. Yeah. Can we go to Elder Amos? So you have some more to add.
Yes, let me add the other two phases,
and then Elder Amos can come. Yeah.
So. And then the next phase is called imitation. So first stage, imprint, 0 to 7, and then we have 8 to 12, which is imitation. Now at imitation stage, the children will imitate the significant adults in their lives. So at that stage, mommy and daddy are their heroes. At that stage, whatever they see adults do is what they will do, because they are now trying to make sense of the world. And so their worldview will be shaped by what they see, what they hear, and the experiences around them.
You see a little girl go take her makeup and
exactly. That's imitation stage. They will try and put their legs into mommy's shoes. The boys will try and put on daddy's jacket when he comes home.
And they look so proud. I mean, wearing their father's jacket.
Imitation. And so it is important for parents, because the children will imitate you, what kind of experiences are you letting them go through? And you yourself, what kind of experiences are you going through? What is the energy that you have created at home? So experience is very important at that stage. Traveling, chatting, playing with them, attending school events, being there for them is so important at imitation stage, because they are going to mimic that in their own lives later on. And then the last stage of development is 13 upwards. They call that independence. So at that stage,
emancipation.
Is that AKA for that stage? The independence. I would say it was an AKA for it.
They think they are bosses.
Exactly. Because at that stage, children are going through sexual and physical maturation, and so now they begin to make sense of the world for themselves. They begin to feel like, oh, okay, actually I can do this. Mommy, why are you wearing this for me? No, I can do it. They want to buy their own clothes. They no longer will depend on your style. They like to do their own things.
Your own is not in vogue.
Exactly. Independence. At independence day, now when children are at the imitation stage, parents are their heroes. Now, when they are at independent stage, friends are their heroes. Because they want to belong.
And we're going to come
feel
back.
Like they are inside, they are part of the clique, the squad. And a lot of parents don't understand that, because you think, oh, my child used to do everything I tell him or her. Now they
I was your hero, and all of a sudden.
Exactly, because I'm not trying to make sense for myself. You have been telling me that this thing, if I touch it, it will shock me. Now I want to test it and see. That's independence.
And we're going to come back to ask how to handle that as a parent. You see that now you've told your son that this, if you touch this, is going to burn you. But there's at a stage where they want to test it. I mean, how do you handle it? We don't get back to Mr. Michael Ohene-Effah on that. But Elder Amos, do you also have some perspective on this concerning the development stages? If you have something to add on this.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that there's something that parents need to pay attention to. The first one that every parent must appreciate is that you were first a spouse before you became a parent, and therefore you must give that attention and priority. If you don't, you will not get the support you need in parenting, because parenting can actually undermine being a spouse. The first thing is that we see a lot of people focusing so much on parenting that they neglect being spouses. So spousal relationships are strained, whereas parental connections and commitments are assured. And that is not healthy for the child. Now, the next one is that we need to realize that rearing a child is not the same as nurturing them. Too many people just do the provision bit, but we know that provision is not necessarily parenting. And so to be able to get these things properly settled, particularly if you have an adolescent child, remind them that while they seek autonomy and independence, being independent in an interdependent world is a mirage. And so they need to learn to cooperate. They need to learn to collaborate. They need to learn to complement. They need to work with others in order to achieve the ends that they have even set for themselves. Irrespective of goals that you have set for yourself, dreams and aspirations a young person may have, they would necessarily need to work with other people to get there.
Okay.
So it is.
Continue,
it becomes useful for a young person to assess themselves as independent, whereas they know that the world is interdependently interlocked and interconnected. So parents, pay attention to your own mindset about children.
Okay.
You're expecting a boy, you got a girl. That mindset that you have can easily be transmitted to the child.
That's a big one you're talking about.
I see too many of that happening. And so parents, what is the mindset that you have? The second one that you need to look at is modeling. Whatever stage of child you have, modeling is a very important element in the development of your child. The third area is the messaging. What messages do you send across? Verbal, body language, gestures, attitude, values. Those messages, the things you validate, the things you invalidate, those things tend to become priority or less of a priority to the child. Because like Mike said, parents, you are still the most important person in the life of your children, no matter what stage of life they find themselves. The fourth area is molding, and the molding has to be done very early, like Mickey said. If you don't do it very early, Dr. Dobson says that when a child is very little, you put them in a drum and lock it and keep a small hole for ventilation. When they are a bit older, you cut it a little open, and then over a period, you take the lid off. And that is where molding comes in. As a parent, you have a responsibility to mold your child. Mothers, for instance, you see they're very good at molding manners. Whereas fathers tend to focus so much on the destiny of the children and what you're going to become, what trade you're going to pursue, and all those things.
Yeah.
And participating in activities that revolve around your child is a form of molding.
Okay.
So Michael talked about school activities. You cannot say that you let domestic managers or assistants take charge of those kinds of spaces. If you do, you're molding them wrongly.
Yeah.
The next one is mentoring. Mentoring for me is a big thing. Parents must learn to mentor their children. I was sharing yesterday, I was in Strasbourg for a youth all night, and I asked the young people to list 5 prominent people in their lives that influenced them. There was not a single mention of parents. There was not a single mention of pastor. There was not a single mention of elder. There was not a single mention of a deaconess. We were talking about celebrities, movie actors, musicians, sports personalities, business moguls, and what have you. That certainly sends a signal of who they are looking up to. So if your children are not looking up to you, and our children are not looking up to us and admiring who we are becoming and wishing to be like us, then we're in big, big trouble. The next one is mission. What is it that they exist for? Parents need to let the children know that they exist for something far more superior to the things of pleasure. Otherwise, pleasure will take over the mission. And when pleasure takes over mission, mission is sacrifice. The last area is an area Michael and Letitia are very good at. Money. Money. How do you help your young people to manage money? And as very little as they are, let them know that money management is important for the future.
Okay.
And so these 7 critical areas for me are areas that I think that in any day I'll put my last money on.
Okay.
Mindset of the parent, not just the mindset, your modeling, the messages you're sending, how you're molding your children, the mentoring you're providing, the mission you set with your child or for your child. Sometimes you set for the child at certain stages, but when they get to a different stage, you set it with them. And the last bit is money.
Wow. These are some great tips. Steps, nuggets we're getting this morning. I want to say good morning to Prince. Prince loves to listen to Sunny FM. He has 2 daughters. Interesting, he's glued to his set and he says he's listening. It's a great program. He's so glad for the tips that are being shared this morning. We have a message here. It says, it's very true. When I was pregnant, I played a lot of music, so response quickly to music. I think that was in confirmation to what Mr. Michael Ohene-Effah was saying at a point concerning music. But I want to get back to a part where you talked about setting boundaries. We have little time left, but I want us to know. I want us to wrap up today with some know-how, so at least we can start today for those who haven't started yet or missed out on that. How do we set the boundaries? Do I call my son, sit down, this, that, and then we are done, conversation is done? How do we start to set the boundaries at the time we need to set the boundaries? What are the steps to follow?
You are right. We need to learn to communicate with our children. In my work, the children complain. One of their biggest complaints is that parents don't communicate. We issue instructions to them. We talk at our children. We don't talk to our children. That's the biggest thing affecting our young boys or our children.
Okay.
So we need to learn to have meetings with our children and not just stand and issue out instructions.
Okay.
It's very important that you enlist their support in the atmosphere that we want to create at home.
Okay.
Now, let's have meetings to discuss. Yes, like you said, sit him down. Let's say we are going to have a meeting, on your room.
That would be a boy conversation, I'm sure.
It's a good topic.
Yes.
Okay.
Or we are going to have a meeting at how you just throw dishes into the sink and not wash it. This is the impact. You see, when you let children know the impact of their behaviors, it's life-changing than you coming to insult and shout at them. That doesn't change anything.
Wow.
Okay.
Number 2, let us learn to attack behavior and not their personality. The fact that my socks and boxes and shoes and slides are in my room doesn't mean I'm a dirty person. My room is dirty, but I am not a dirty person.
When you
do that, you are killing the soul of your child. There's a difference between the behavior and the personality. And we need to differentiate between the two.